Hey y'all, so today I'm going to be talking about changing my ratings on books. And this is actually a pretty overdue discussion for me because a few weeks ago, slash possibly even a full month ago now, I went on Goodreads and I kind of went through a massive overhaul of all of the ratings that I've given so far this year. Because when I looked at the ratings that I've given so far this year, I realized that a good chunk of them didn't really match up with my current thoughts and feelings about the book. And in a lot of cases, I ended up lowering the original rating by half a point. Now that may not sound like a lot given that I use a 10-star system, and what is really the difference between a 7.5 and a 7-star rating? However, in some cases that 0.5 meant the difference between getting a 5-star rating or a 4-star rating or a 4-star rating and a 3-star rating. And since I know that there are some people who don't really like the idea of changing your rating on a book significantly after you've read it, I am going to kind of talk about why I think that it is okay. And I'm also going to be talking about my personal reasons for changing some of these ratings, both on a very specific, like one certain book level, as well as on a broader, more general level for many books. So concerning my general opinion on changing book ratings, obviously I am in favor of changing a book rating well after the fact if you feel that it deserves to be changed. And for me, the biggest reason why I support changing ratings on books is that not only do my likes and dislikes change over time, but my opinions on certain issues also change over time. For example, I didn't really love Looking for Alaska by John Green the first time I read it. I think I gave it 3 stars out of 5. I thought it was okay, but I wasn't a huge fan. Looking for Alaska is currently sitting at a 1-star rating on my Goodreads because the more time I get from the book, the more I realize that I just thought it was a terrible book. I didn't see anything outstanding about it when I actually read it, and now that I look back on it, I realize that I hate the characters even more than I hated them when I first read it, and that they're all kind of stock characters that John Green has taken and placed into a pretty simplistic story. Now, I'm not saying this to bash John Green or anyone who likes the book, because if you want to like the book, it is your prerogative to like the book. I cannot dictate your opinions on anything. But my opinions of the book have shifted from, well, it's okay, I kind of liked it, to me not thinking that it is a well-written, well-structured book. On top of this, we review books for other people. It would be kind of pointless for us to write a review about a book for just ourselves, because obviously we read the book, we know our own feelings about it. It would be silly to write a review or film a review and post it and only expect it to be for yourself. So I feel a responsibility for my reviews and ratings to be up to date with my current opinions and feelings on the books that I've read. Because 10-year-old Kristen reading Harry Potter for the first time has very different interests and a very different point of view from 21-year-old Kristen who is reading Harry Potter for the millionth time. And obviously you're gonna wanna know current 21-year-old Kristen's opinion on Harry Potter more than 10-year-old Kristen who didn't like Prisoner of Azkaban the first time because the end of the book wasn't as exciting as the end of the first 2 books. True story. So now on to the more specific reasons why I personally changed some of these ratings. So like I said at the beginning of the video, a lot of these ratings got lowered by 0.5 stars. And most of those were for the same exact reason, which has to do with my enjoyment of the book. Because I tend to at least enjoy every single book I read. If I wasn't enjoying it at least on some level, I probably wouldn't get to the end of it. And yes, I even tend to enjoy those books that I give lower star ratings. I kind of liken it to watching a really bad reality TV show. It's like, you know it's bad, but you still enjoy watching it. And plus, another reason that I tend to enjoy all of the books that I read is that I kind of know my reading taste pretty well. I'm 21 and have been reading since I was 3, so I've had a good 19 years to figure out what books that I enjoy reading. So what typically tends to happen is that I'll read a book and I'll get to the end of it and think, do you know what, it had a ton of problems, but I still kind of enjoyed it. And I end up giving it a rating that is definitely higher than what it actually deserves. And then when I go back on Goodreads and I look at my rating a few months later, I am like, why did I do that? That book definitely does not deserve that rating. Because in the moment, I tend to go more off of how I feel about the book, whereas a few months later, I can judge both the good things that were in the book and the not so good things that were in the book. One example of this is The Leveler by Julia Durango. I think originally I gave this 6 or 6.5 stars, but I ended up lowering it to 4 stars. Because in the moment, even though there were a lot of problems that I had with the writing and with some insta-love, I still didn't totally hate it, and I was kind of curious to see what might happen next. But the more distance from it I got, the more I realized that I just thought that this was a poorly written book and that it really didn't stick with me at all except for the negative aspects of it. Like, I went back and I watched my June wrap-up and I listened to myself talk about all the things that I didn't like about the book, and I'm not even sure that I mentioned anything that I actually enjoyed about the book. So The Leveler is definitely a more extreme example of this whole enjoyment thing, but honestly, this happens to me all the time. I don't know how many books I went through and just docked half a point from it because it was just slightly too high. And pretty much every single time it was because in the moment I rated it just slightly too high, and looking back on it, I thought it didn't deserve that extra half star, which I know is really petty, but it's my rating system. And then the second main reason that I ended up lowering several ratings was because of pressure/expectations. And I don't mean it in the literal sense of someone putting pressure on me to give me a specific rating, because I would never do that, I would never agree to that. But what I mean is more of like pressure to enjoy a book as much as I think I'm going to, or just like the pressure of other people really enjoying a book and expecting to enjoy it that much myself. One of my most severe rating changes was because of pressure, and that was Wildflower by Janine Carbone, which I changed from 7 or 7.5, I believe, to a 4.5 out of 10. Now, this is the only advanced reader copy that I've ever received from an author, and I am not saying in any way that the author pressured me to give a certain rating, because that is certainly not the case. The rating was my own completely. However, she was just so nice when she asked if I wanted to review the book, and I really, really wanted to enjoy it because she was just so friendly and so sweet. And the book doesn't have a ton of ratings on Goodreads. At the time, it only had 4 and 5-star books, and I just felt really bad because I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to, and I didn't want to be that one dissenting person giving it a 2-star rating. And it's not that I was lying about the opinion that I gave on the book, because like I said, that's not something that I'm ever going to do. I just think that I actually convinced myself that I liked it more than I really did, and I kind of focused on all of the things that I did actually like about the book instead of the things that I thought were not very good about it. And even now, it's not that I hate the book, I just don't particularly like it. I thought that there were a lot of problems with it. I thought that it was very disjointed. There were things that were in there that didn't seem to belong and didn't make any sense and weren't important to the plot. I don't know, I didn't like it as much as I convinced myself that I did, and so I felt the need to lower the rating to match how I actually felt about the book now. And then as an example of a book where I had to deal with my own expectations of how much I would enjoy it, Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. And before anyone freaks out or anything, I lowered it from a 10-star rating to a 9.5-star rating. So I still absolutely loved this book. When I went into the Mistborn trilogy, I expected to love it, and I did. But I definitely didn't love this one quite as much as I loved the first two. And I think that I had convinced myself in my brain that the Mistborn trilogy was a 10-star series and that all the books were going to be 10-star books. And when I finished Hero of Ages and I really enjoyed it, I was like, of course this is a 10-star book. But when I really got to thinking about it, I definitely preferred both of the first two books over this one, and I just wasn't as invested in the plot of this one as I was with the other books. But like I said, I still love this book and the entire trilogy. I just thought it should get 9.5 instead of 10 stars. So those are the two main reasons that I tend to change / usually lower my ratings on books. Let me know down in the comments what your opinions are on changing your ratings on books, whether you're opposed to it, whether you think it's a good thing to do. Let me know. Also, if you do change your ratings on books, let me know down in the comments if there are any books that you've read where your rating now drastically differs from the first rating you gave it, because I think that would be super interesting to talk about. As always, I will leave links down in the description to my blog, Twitter, and Goodreads. Please add me as a friend on Goodreads. I would love to be friends with all of you. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!